So welcome everybody. There are some familiar faces. Some people have heard aspects of this lecture before, and welcome back. There's a couple of things we're gonna discuss tonight, things like serotonin, dopamine, very simple neurotransmitters, neurochemicals that are really important in understanding better what drives some of our behavior. Places we feel out of control, the more education, the more awareness, and really the more self-acceptance that we can grow within ourselves, the better we can deal with that when we are stressed and when we're challenged with situations where we go back to maybe some old behaviors that we're looking at changing.
When Mexican food was combined to American food, because we have this influence, of course, and I find out that Mexican diet is really good, because you feed. It's based on corn and salsa, which is vegetables, and beans, with combine beans and corn, and you have a full protein. When I feel depressed or anxious, I tend to have a lot of carbs, like especially pastries or ice creams, pasta, tacos. And I gained like over, I don't know, probably 140 pounds. I was eating compulsively. There were no power in the air that could make me stop eating, and I gained a lot of weight. Because I tried many diets before, but until I started working with my emotions was when I was able to really lose all that overweight, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You can see why I picked Marta. It's very compelling, and I think she really highlights something that's so key in getting in touch with her emotions and the compulsive eating that caused her to gain 140 pounds. And there's really no diet that was going to be successful until she could really internalize and have a relationship with her inner self. I'm not going to go into a whole, biology lesson, but I just want to really highlight some key parts of the brain that are going to be weaved through the lecture. So some key parts of the brain are my little laser pointer. The VTA, which is the midbrain, the prefrontal cortex, and the NA, this midbrain. So really we're going to you'll see images throughout the lecture. In the deep brain, that's where a lot of neurotransmitter activity happens, a lot of dopamine activity happens. There were an incredible amount of animal studies that I was reading in this research where, they would infuse mice with glucose. And the mice would just start licking to get more and more and more, even though there was nothing there, because their brains were so charged up and really trying to go after getting more and more and more of that substance. So it's not a hopeless story, and we'll get to that, because we can really rewire the brain. And I know everybody's heard the term neuroplasticity. It's real. We can kind of reprogram the brain. We can, even after years of abuse of drugs, foods, we can really find ways in our daily life to build that frontal lobe, to give us the strength to really deal with eating, addictions, there's lots of ways to do that. Mindfulness, meditation, the data I found on that in the research was incredible. And it actually builds the front part of the brain. It thickens. That's pretty amazing. And that can be at any stage in our life. It's not when you're done growing, the brain's done changing. That's your whole life. You can really rewire and strengthen parts of the brain that can really help. We see that deep part of the brain. There's the dopamine that I was talking about, that prefrontal cortex that helps us make those better decisions, that helps us have a little more self-awareness. So unbelievably, that's a molecule of dopamine on a woman's back. I could not believe when I went into Google Docs. It's like a cult around dopamine. Tattoos, body art, earrings, jewelry, shirts. I was like, there were people with dopamine tattoos on their arms, front of their body, back of their bodies. Some people really like their dopamine. See what I'm saying? I also want to let you know that there are ways that people can look at neurotransmitter activity. So if people are interested in getting a view into their neurochemistry, there's testing that can be done for people to look at that. And again, one of the things I said in my lecture is that genetics play a really important role in this. So for some people, it is important to get that snapshot to see where they're starting, what their starting point is, and maybe how much nutritional support they might need in making some of those changes. Because we're all starting, as I said before, everyone's chemistry is different, and we're all starting at different places. And as some of my slides showed, some of us didn't get a good start and maybe, started somewhat deficient in addition to genetics. So for some people are interested in the testing, and I can tell you firsthand that when I've consulted with people that were dealing with both addiction and weight issues, when they actually looked at something that helped them understand their chemistry, the relief and the release that people felt, because they'd been carrying that around like they just didn't have, as I said before, enough willpower, enough self-control, a lot of shame. And for them to start to even have a visual, result where they're looking at numbers and maybe looking at what's happening in their body gave them such a sense of empowerment to really take it on, to support their body and to not do the self-blame thing and to really begin to have some of that self-acceptance that was kind of weaved through the lecture.